What is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? It is Steven here, and in today's stream, we are going to be doing another live 2022 NFL mock draft. We are also, after that's done, we're going to get into some fantasy football implications from some of these prospects and just fantasy football at large. And you best believe we're going to be talking about Super Bowl 56 and just everything else that's going on in the NFL. Lots of news breaking over the last week and a half. Doesn't even have to actually do with the two teams that are in the Super Bowl, right? So we got a lot to talk about today, guys. Excited to get into it. Um, we saw in that divisional round, the conference round, is that these playoffs are going to be intense. These playoffs are going to be to the end of the game, which is something we really haven't been able to say for the past couple of years. I mean, the wild card this year was a lot more similar to what I feel like we've been expecting, and then right after that, it just got hot really quick, guys. And which is good, right? Good as a fan for sure, and just good as like for the money for the league, obviously. But I'm looking forward to this Bengals Rams matchup. I think that right now, my early take is I think the Bengals are going to squeak it out. I like Joe Burrow a lot, but the Rams do have just about everything you need to get after this weak offensive line of the Cincinnati Bengals. So that's definitely something I'm a little spooked about on their front. But I think, at the end of the day, the one thing about Joe Burrow that he's been able to do is he's been able to separate himself from that offensive line's porous pass blocking by, making smart decisions, right? And that's key. That's key. And it separates him from a lot of other young quarterbacks, right? But with that said, guys, let's get into that mock draft. Let's get into the live 2022 NFL mock draft. This has been adjusted, obviously, since the last game. So now it is predicting that the that the Rams are going to be the Super Bowl winners, right? So the Lions are going to have that 32nd pick. Bengals have that 31st pick. So we got a little bit more up to speed there, and it'll keep changing, obviously. But number one, we get the Jacksonville Jaguars. Previous mock drafts and previously just talking about these prospects, I've been very heavy on Aiden Hutchinson or just pass rush in general for this Jag spot. I think the two best prospects are probably Aiden and Kayvon Thibodeau, which is not really a big surprise. I think most mock boards are going to do that, right? But something I've been paying attention to a lot more recently is the fact that what we're seeing out of these teams that win the Super Bowl and are at the Super Bowl is they've got a quarterback that can separate from the pack, right? I think Trevor Lawrence, he's obviously like the next Greek god, apparently, to NFL scouts. And obviously he was, compared to Peyton Manning, John Elway, Andrew Luck, right? So we have got to give him some tools, give him some help. I'm going to do in the future some mock drafts with trading included because I think this Jag spot would be really good to trade out of it, to be honest, because they have a lot that they need. But with my first pick, I'm going to take Evan Neal, offensive tackle for Alabama, who I think is the best pure pass blocker in a loaded offensive line class. What's up, Timeout with Henry? What is up, Ronald? Doing a quick mock draft, 2022 mock draft. Glad you guys are in the chat, guys. Detroit Lions up next, obviously number two. And I mean, this is just such a beauty, right? To get Aiden Hutchinson to stay at home. That's a perfect scenario for them. Get a guy that's going to be a real culture fit for them. And this is, dude, Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, people want to, at first he was getting comped to like an exact Bosa. I don't think he's a Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa per se, but this dude is very athletic. He's going to light it up at the combine. Had one of the highest PFF graded pass rushing performances we've seen in some time. He's a very solid player. He's going to be a great player in the NFL for 10 plus years. So Detroit Lions get their building block right here. Number three, Houston Texans up on the board. I think this is the first one where it starts really kind of going either way. If I'm the Texans, like I am trying to trade out immediately, right? I think you definitely look at Kayvon Thibodeau as being like kind of that guy, as being a little bit more obvious, right? Get a strong pass rusher there. I've taken him a lot of times for the purpose of just kind of changing it up a little bit. I'm actually going to look at some other options here. Kyle Hamilton, who got mocked out, and Daniel Jeremiah's board went here at number 3 just because of a lot of the Patriots staff, old front office that's a part of this Texans team. We'll see what they do, what coaches they bring in, what they type of direction they try to bring in here. But Kyle Hamilton is one of the best prospects. Actually, when I drop my mock board of all the prospects, you will see this, but he is my number 1 player on this board just in terms of what this guy can do, the kind of impact this guy can have on a defense. Play linebacker, nickel, safety. You probably put him out wide 2 at times, right? This guy is a very versatile weapon. He's going to be almost like a more athletic Jamal Adams, right? And I think that would be massive for this Texans defense. Who, definitely is investing in the secondary as well. Could be a really, really, really big benefit to them. Get this guy in here. Number 3, first shakeup on the board. And this sets the Jets up in a really nice spot, right? Because, the Jets, I think the immediate needs are pass rush. Offensive line, you could definitely bolster as well. And then receiver as well, I think, is a spot that they need to address, right? Especially after seeing the Cincinnati Bengals team and what they've been able to do with the strong receiving core, right? So I think this is definitely a spot that the Jets are going to look at with their first, that the first 10 picks, they have 2 of them, right? And these are great picks to have, right? Obviously, there's rumors that they might trade out for Calvin Ridley. I don't think they'll do that. To be honest, I think that would be a pretty bad move. But I think now when you're looking at it, you've got them in a situation where they can take Mr. Kayvon Thibodeau, who is one of the best pass rushers in the game, and coming off the board here at number 4. This is a great pick for them. I love this pick. Number 5, you got the New York Giants up next. Giants, we've heard some rumors recently that Saquon Barkley could potentially be up for trade. Brian Daboll, coach that used to be with the Bills, is now over in the Giants. I love Brian Daboll. I think he's a fantastic coach. Obviously, there were issues with Brian Flores and everything, and he said that they had a kind of a vendetta against him to a certain extent, and they discriminated against him for being hired. Brian Daboll brings in a very run-heavy approach. I think he's going to really help out Daniel Jones, who this team has already said that they want to really help out, want to put some guys around him to really set this guy's career up a little bit, right? So I've taken him in the past here a lot, and I like Ikem Ekwonu a lot out of North Carolina State, the best run blocking tackle in this game, and I also think has the chance to become the best tackle in the game coming off the board here. Raiders just upgraded both of their GMs today. How do you think that'll impact their picks? Up, mofo? What's up, Spencer? What is up, Mr. Sarcastic? How you guys doing? I think the Raiders bringing in Josh McDaniels and also bringing in another Patriots guy is going to bring a little bit more of a structure in place, right? I feel like the Raiders have lacked structure over the past couple years under the John Gruden, Mike Mayock regime. There's rumors, there's, people talk about how maybe Mike Mayock didn't have a whole lot of control over who got drafted. But I think what we're going to see here is very quickly we're going to find out if they believe in Derek Carr going forward, right? I believe in Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is a great quarterback. So for them, I think what they need to do is they need to address the skill position spot, bring in some receivers, and also build out that defense. Knowing the Patriots type of guys that they're coming over here with, though, like that Patriots front office guy, I think they're going to address the secondary, right? Who I've actually talked about them grabbing and building at that position in past mock drafts, right? So I do think that's what they're going to look at. But man, they could really use some other skill guys at the receiver spot as well. And it's a loaded receiver class. Number 6, we got the Carolina Panthers on the board. This is maybe I am a little bit different in terms of other guys out there. Maybe think that the Panthers are not going to go quarterback here because it's, a very weak class and there's some very strong needs on the offensive line spot as well. But I think that, and the Panthers don't have a second pick either, right? They lost the pick for that Sam Darnold acquisition, right? Just knowing that rule, knowing how aggressive this owner is, if they do not get one of these big free agent quarterbacks, I definitely think they go quarterback. I've been watching a couple days of the Senior Bowl practice. and just hearing a lot of things about this Kenny Pickett kid. I loved his tape. I mean, obviously had the fantastic senior year. His biggest concern really is that it took him so long to break out. His mobility, he's showing a lot more mobility in the Senior Bowl practices. His hand size is a big issue, obviously, but I don't, you can point to other guys in the past who have been able to overcome the small hands, right? So Kenny Pickett here, I got at 6. I kind of go back and forth between him and Sam Howell at the first quarterback off the board here. But I do think, even though this is a kind of weak quarterback class with, Tom Brady now retiring, Packers maybe being in a bad quarterback spot, we could see a lot more quarterbacks go in the first round than we thought. Number 7, Giants on the clock. In past mock drafts, I've really kind of taken a look at pass rush and offensive line support here. I'm going to go that way again here. And I like David Ajabo a lot, man. David Ajabo is one of my favorite prospects. Before I even really watched this guy's film and just looked at his stats and his build, I liked him. And then I started seeing his highlights and just seeing the guy's upside and potential. I mean, the guy didn't play football until his junior year in high school. And his explosion off the ball is just absurd. The guy can make offensive linemen look silly. I think he's a great pick here. I have him a little bit earlier than other folks do. I mean, David Ajabo is a very interesting prospect because right now his draft range is like all the way from 7 to like 15 to 20, right? I mean, he has got a pretty big range, but I think when people really start getting their eyes on this guy, he is going to jack up the boards because he's just so athletic and he's got great upside again. Some people think he's better than Aiden Hutchinson. And that says a lot because Aiden Hutchinson's really good. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons on the board. Do they replace Matt Ryan? I don't think so. I don't think they do that. I think you can bring in some defensive line support, bring in some linebacker help. I think that would be good. George Karlaftis, I don't really see him being a guy that they would go after here. He's the top edge rusher on this available at this point after Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo go. But at the D tackle spot, you got a couple guys that I really like. Obviously, DeMarvin Leal, Jordan Davis, and then you got the pass rushing specialist, Perrion Winfrey. But again, that would be very early, right? But I do look at the corner spot and I say, all right, Derek Stingley sliding a little bit. Ahmad Gardner is my favorite corner. I think bringing in a corner here to go on the other side of AJ Terrell, as AJ especially plays in the slot a lot as well. So get a guy that can play the outside, shut down these receivers. That is key, right? I think the Falcons, they did have AJ Terrell and he was amazing, but the secondary still sucked. From a fantasy perspective, we were saying attack that secondary all year long. So let's get him some help. This is the first time I'm doing it, but I'm taking Ahmad Gardner as my first corner, which is something that I'm very comfortable with doing. This is an amazing corner, very big body dude, long arms, played absolutely outstanding at Cincinnati. He balled out against Alabama despite them losing. This is going to be a top prospect for sure. And scouts love this dude. I mean, every NFL analyst I hear just rave about this guy, and they like him more than Derek Stingley, who at first people really were thinking was going to be the first corner off the board. No questions asked. Broncos up on the board, bringing in now both the Packers tight end coach and the Packers old OC. That is what we're going to be seeing from the offensive side of the ball on this Denver Broncos squad. For me personally, I think they're going to be trying to attack one of these big free agent quarterbacks. So what is a big need for them? I think offensive line could be really huge for these guys. Bring in another offensive lineman. I think another linebacker could be good as well. In the past, I've looked at the quarterback spot and said this could be a spot where Denver goes out and grabs a quarterback. But for this scenario, I'm going to assume that they go out and they get a quarterback through free agency, kind of like what they did with Teddy Bridgewater. They are not going to rely on Drew Lock. I can tell you that. I think this is where Charles Cross goes, who I think is an outstanding tackle as well. Probably the best pass blocking tackle in the draft. So I think this is a great move for them here. And man, so far before I even cap off the top 10, this is a very different draft than I'm used to. So this is fun to see like kind of where all the prospects end up shaking out. And with the number 10 pick, the New York Jets are up on the clock, right? With their first pick, they got Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, fantastic pick for them. I'm starting to hear a lot of buzz that the New York Jets are going to be in the market for a receiver. In the past, I've taken Drake London as my first guy, but I think that's just because I love him so much. But another guy I really like a lot is this Treylon Burks kid. And with this LaFleur offense, I think, that could lead to a situation where a guy like Burks, who, Shanahan and LaFleur have a strong relationship, similar offenses, zone reading. Treylon Burks is a guy that could really fit there. But I do think Garrett Wilson is the clear cut number one receiver in this draft class. And so I'm taking at number 10, Garrett Wilson, to bolster up this pass receiving core for the New York Jets. I mean, when you look at it, obviously they got Elijah Moore, and then you got Braxton Berrios. Like, that's what we're talking about here. They need to get a guy on the outside who's going to really be able to separate, and that's exactly what Garrett Wilson can do. Number 11, the Washington Commanders. I guess that is our new team name here in Washington. So yeah, the jerseys are kind of weird. I'd like to hear what you guys think about the new jerseys for the Commanders. I personally think they look like an arena football team or a high school football team, but I kind of like them at the same time, right? I kind of like them. I've heard a lot of, but they're going quarterback, in my opinion. I think that's what the Commanders are going to do here. I think this is a complete revolution at the team spot here. I think they get new uniforms, new team name. I think they get a new quarterback. And I don't think they're going to be able to really land one of these free agent hot names, right? So Malik Willis is the guy I like for them. I think Matt Corral, again, is a really good spot. And I'll say this, I had Malik Willis as for sure going to Washington in my mind here just because Ron Rivera likes him. Apparently, a lot of people in Washington like him. And this dude is a very explosive, dynamic, very fastball player and has the strongest arm maybe out of the draft class. But he's very inconsistent, very inaccurate. He does some stupid shit. And in the Senior Bowl so far, or Senior Bowl practices so far, he's really just kind of played up to that MO. I mean, he's been very inconsistent, made some boneheaded plays. But you know what? Washington's kind of used to that. They're going to take an upside guy. They're not a Super Bowl team right now, anyways. I think they go Malik Willis, and I don't think it's going to surprise a lot of people when he goes there. Number 12, Minnesota Vikings are up on the clock. A lot of hype around them grabbing a corner here or a pass rusher, which I think they need both. I like Derek Stingley Jr. here for them. I don't want to give him this comp just because he's an LSU guy with range and ball skills like a Patrick Peterson did, but that is a decent comp for him. And I do think, Derek Stingley is going to fall. He's been falling, but this could be a spot where he gets taken. But on the other side, too, I like George Karlaftis a lot here. They need a pass rusher. I think he's a great fit for them. Harbaugh potentially going to be that Vikings coach, right? This is exactly the kind of guy that a Harbaugh would want, right? Karlaftis, a gritty pass rusher from Purdue. So I'm taking Karlaftis here at 12. I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be in the league for a long time and make a lot of plays for that Viking squad. And man, I was talking about it last night with John. I think the Vikings are sneakily a squad. If they put the right pieces together on the defense and Harbaugh can come in and change the culture, this could be a Super Bowl team, playoff team, right? Then it sounds crazy, but if A-Rod's not included with this Packers team, the NFC North becomes very attainable. And the Vikings, they've got that offense that is just insane, right? Number 13, we got the Cleveland Browns up, guys. I just started a franchise in Madden with the Cleveland Browns for 5-0. I like this team a lot. Baker Mayfield is way better in Madden than he is in real life. But one thing we're going to do is we're going to give him some support to make this guy close to my Madden level Baker Mayfield, right? We're going to go after the receiver position. And what I'm looking at here, I like Drake London a lot. But, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's a big body guy. Kind of already have that build there, right? Chris Olave, I think he's a dude who's going to slide a little bit outside of the top 15. Honestly, maybe past the top 20. I think this Browns team is going to look at a guy like Jameson Williams, and they're going to get enticed. They're going to really be interested in taking a dart throw on this guy coming back from the knee injury, right? And I kind of like this move. I have not done this in the past here. Jameson Williams by far is my number one favorite receiver. But coming off the injury, that's just not the first receiver I think is going off the board. Some mockers, have him going off like the first round. Like they have him at the very end of the first round, early second. I like him here just to see how this goes out. I think this would be great for them. The Browns are a run team anyways. So let's eat up the first half of the season. We can get through the first half of the season. We're a really good ball club without another receiver. So let's do that. Let's win some games, and then we'll get Jameson Williams back there towards the back half of the season in the playoffs. And that could be a real difference maker, right? And this AFC North, very, very, very competitive division for sure. But they need to have players like Jameson Williams there in the locker room for the future. Number 14, Baltimore Ravens up on the clock. They can go a variety of directions. They've got a lot of things that they can do. Corner is definitely a spot that I think they will take a look at here. I like Roger McCreary a ton, but his arms are very short. His speed is not going to be elite. And that is just going to probably slide him into that nickel role, which is not something that's going to be like a top 20 pick, right? I do love Roger McCreary, though. Trent McDuffie is a fantastic corner. I think would fit this scheme beautifully. And that's who I'm going to take here. I'm going to take Trent McDuffie, corner from Washington, to the Baltimore Ravens, which is a pretty early pick for him. But this is a guy who I've heard in some mock drafts going as early as, the first corner off the board. Number 15, we got the Philadelphia Eagles, the first of their 3 picks in the next 5, right? I mean, these guys are loaded at draft capital. And they've got a lot of needs, right? Offensive line, obviously, they've got needs there. Pass rush, I think they've got a lot of needs there as well. But in the corner, they need that back support. So it's really about how they're going to play out, and use their draft picks to avoid, the Chargers and the Saints or any trade ups, right? I think you for sure got to take a look at the defensive line support here. I think, I've heard some people talk about Jordan Davis to them. I like these linebackers a lot. I think you look at Devin Lloyd's stats. Devin Lloyd is a animal when it comes to making tackles. Guy had 111 tackles. He gets after the quarterback too. He would be exactly what the Eagles need. So with my first of 3 picks, I'm going to take Devin Lloyd, who I've risen on a ton over this last month or two. And in number 2 pick for the Eagles here, I'm going to go Derek Stingley Jr., right? The most upside corner in the entire draft. Obviously, he's got kind of his flaws, and people obviously have soured on him recently. But, bro, this was a top 5 projected pick coming into the draft. And the fact that the Eagles could potentially go up and get Derek Stingley Jr., a corner that could be revolutionizing to their back spot there to pair up with a Darius Slay. I mean, that could really work out. I think you're bringing him into a good locker room too. Ronald, let me know what you think of that pick. I don't know if you're going to love it, but I like this pick here. I think this is a really good spot here. They might go another corner as well. There's some really good ones. And that's the thing about this draft too, man. You can wait until the 2nd, 3rd round and still get really good guys as well. I mean, Kobe Bryant, corner from Cincinnati, on the opposite side of Sauce Gardner, is also really good. He's been playing very well at the Senior Bowl so far. And Kyler Gordon, the opposite corner from Trent McDuffie from Washington, is also another standout, right? So lots of good players here. We got the Los Angeles Chargers up on the clock. I am still a fan of this Jordan Davis pick here. I mean, they are so bad at the pass rush. I just think this is a very excellent pick for them. I will say, it does make sense for them to bring on some more protection to protect their guy, Justin Herbert. But for the purpose of this pick, I'm taking Jordan Davis, who is the best run stopper in this draft class, guys. And the number 18 pick, the New Orleans Saints, are up on the clock. I've taken them going receiver in the past. Who knows what the hell they're going to do here now? Sean Payton gone. I'm not too sure what's going to happen, right? This offense is totally changing. I mean, dude, like they need new receivers. They need a new quarterback. They need a new defense because they're going to start losing people left and right. This is a total rebuild for the Saints over the next year or two, right? So we look at best available, honestly. And you look at Kenyon Green, who's a great offensive lineman. You look at getting cheaper at the most expensive position in the draft in the league, and that's quarterback. And you look at Matt Corral. I think he's a really good fit here too. Um, Chris Olave, I've taken him here as well in past drafts. It's just very interesting. They can go a lot of different directions, and it wouldn't be surprised if they took, a receiver here. And that's really stemming to the fact that I don't really know if Michael Thomas is going to be a New Orleans Saint next year, right? So I'm going to go out. I'm going to grab Chris Olave, who is the faster of the two Ohio State receivers. This guy is absolutely lightning fast. He's going to probably run in the 4.3s. I think this guy is going to burn at the combine. And this is a guy who can get loose very quick. I mean, once he catches that thing, you better be close to him or else there's no way of catching him. I think this is a great pick for the Saints. I like Chris Olave a lot. And two of my favorite guys in this entire draft are slipping right now. Drake London, Treylon Burks. These are definitely first round caliber people. I just kind of like Chris Olave a little bit more for the scheme there. And guess what? Eagles are on the clock. We're going receiver, guys. So I'm going Treylon Burks here for the Philadelphia Eagles. This dude fits this scheme to a T. Ronald or any other Eagles fans in the chat, if you haven't already checked out this guy's film or just seen this dude, I mean, he's built like AJ Brown. All of his comps are AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel, right? I mean, those are some great company people to be, compared to. And he's used like a, Debo Samuel. I mean, he's got the screens, he gets the ball out of the backfield, but he's built like an AJ Brown. He is built like a DK Metcalf, and he can run all the routes that they do as well. So I really like Treylon Burks. I would not be surprised if this guy was the first receiver off the board. And I think the Eagles, when you look back on that 3-pick kind of curmudgeon there, they're all there together. I mean, those are fantastic picks. You address the linebacker, corner, and receiver spot. You are definitely in a better position there. And going forward, let's free up Devontae Smith a little bit, right? Too. Let's let him work a little bit more and not get bullied so much. I mean, the guy had a great rookie year, but give him some more company. I think he can break out even more. And the number 20 pick, Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. I think this is going to be another quarterback here. We can say it might be A-Rod. We can speculate on that. But all we know as of right now is that they are going into the 2022 season with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. That's not happening. That's not happening. That is not going to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. Sam Howell, I like a lot for them. I think he's very reminiscent of another quarterback in that division, Baker Mayfield. I just think Sam Howell has probably more athleticism and has a way stronger arm, right? So Sam Howell had the good junior year. He had a poor senior year after losing a lot of his teammates. Leadership off the charts, similar to Baker coming out of college. He has a lot to prove in the 2022 or in the Senior Bowl practices and in the Senior Bowl game, right? He can really separate there. But I like Sam Howell here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's what I'm taking there. I'm taking Sam Howell off the board. And going up at number 21, we got the New England Patriots, where Tom Brady apparently is going to sign that one-day contract to retire with the Pats. I think that's pretty cool. But, they've already got their quarterback in the future. They already got Mac Jones, right? I think a big need for them is to get some more skill guys around that Mac Jones quarterback of the future. But, you can also look at the defense, right? You've got a strong secondary for sure. That's the JC Jacksons and everybody else they've got back there. They've been around for a while too. I mean, and I really am not concerned about anybody Bill Belichick puts back there because he can coach the lights out of them, right? But for me, you look at the corner spot, and I think you could go out and get them. Nakobe Dean is a great type of Patriot player, and I think he would fit really well. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Bill Belichick wait around until second, third round to go after a linebacker, right? Chad Muma, Wyoming linebacker, who replaced Luke Wilson, who is now part of the Super Bowl contender Cincinnati Bengals. Fantastic linebacker, right? There's a lot of good linebackers you can get late in the draft, right? So I think they go and they attack Drake London, who is one of my favorite players in this draft class. big body, Michael Pittman, Mike Evans type of receiver. He is going to be a great pair to go on the other side of a Kendrick Bourne, of a Nelson Aguilar. I mean, a lot of these guys I'm naming are these small frame, fast receivers. Let's take another shot at getting a big body receiver in there and give somebody that you can just chuck it up, right? Because obviously they like to just chuck it up there for a Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith, but let's get somebody on the outside that can play a little bully ball. Number 22, you guys brought up the question of what the hell is going to go on with the Raiders after bringing in new management, new front office, and everything. And it's a good question, right? And I said receivers a spot, and then on the defensive side, they need linebacker, they need corner, they need a whole lot, right? The only thing they're really good at right now on the defensive side of the ball is you could argue they've got a really good pass rush with Max Crosby and I can't pronounce the other guy's name on the other side, right? But offensive line is another big way they can build. I think Tyler Linderbaum would be a great pick here for them. They had a couple bad picks under the Mike Mayock regime on the offensive line. They took that one dude from Alabama who just absolutely sucked. But I like, I would have liked them to take a receiver, but there's just nobody available anymore at this point for me to really go out and jump to. That's going to be that much of a separator for the Raiders' current receiving core. So for me personally, I'm going to add another corner for them, a corner that's going to be able to aid, a Casey Hayward who's like 40 years old. And you got Andrew Booth Jr., corner for Clemson, who is a very, very good athlete, big body frame. I'm going to take him in here. This is one of the higher ranking corners on this mock draft site as well. And I think the Raiders are going to get a pretty good player here at a very important position. Number 23, we got the Arizona Cardinals up on the clock here. Man, Arizona Cardinals, one of the most disappointing teams in the game right now. I mean, come on, man. I need them to take that next step. I need Kyler Murray to take that next step. And I think a lot of that has to do with Cliff Kingsbury not being the coach of the Arizona Cardinals anymore. But, for the purposes of them trying to address their needs in the draft right now, we got to take a look at pass rushes being a massive need, right? I mean, obviously, J.J. Watt's going to be out the door. Chandler Jones, well, J.J. Watt, he might be there for one more year, right? But Chandler Jones, I would not be surprised if he gave his walk-in papers very quickly. I don't think he's very happy there. Personally, I think they could attack the receiver position, and I think they will attack the receiver position in the later rounds for sure. And it sounds crazy because you feel like over the past couple of years, they've invested a ton at that receiver spot, but think they could do a lot more. I mean, without DeAndre Hopkins, we saw them struggle big time, right? So for me personally, I think a big need for them. I know my buddy who's a diehard Arizona Cardinals fan cried about it all year long. The corner spot's pretty big there. They love the Washington corners too. Kyler Gordon, I mean, he went very early in the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. I know Bucky Brooks also loves him. A lot of people love this kid. He's not as high of a name right now, but when you look at his tape, you look at what he did at Washington, he's one of the better cover corners in the game. He's going to be able to play man. He's going to be able to play zone. And I like this pick a lot here for the Arizona Cardinals. And I mean, it really comes down to, are you going to jump on a Jermaine Johnson pass rusher, right? Are you going to jump on a DeMarvin Leal? I don't think so. I don't think that's your pick here. They certainly could. I mean, Jermaine Johnson's been looking fantastic at the Senior Bowl practices so far. If he has a great week, this is a guy that easily could be in that 20 to 30 range. But coming into this week, he was a second round type of guy. So Kyler Gordon, corner here, taking him. Again, it's a very interesting pick for me. We will see what happens. But this, just like Spence said, and guys, I'm going to be getting to the chat. Don't you worry about that. I'm going to address the chat. Thank you, John, for being in there too to support it. But yeah, man, we're going to go out and attack that corner spot, help out Buda Baker. Dallas Cowboys up at number 24. This is a team that can really do just about anything they want. The fact that they are so loaded at various skill positions, and they've got a young team, a young defense, a young offense. So bringing back their coordinators. Quarterback position is obviously solidified too. You're really in a spot where you can take like best available, right? So for me personally, I mean, like you're looking at this situation and you're just saying, man, what can I do to really kind of separate, right? I think they saw this defense as being a key spot for them to kind of make that step last year. I mean, that defense was huge for them. And then they say, all right, what is the most important, maybe second most important position, high value position in all of football? It's pass rush, right? So I'm looking at the Marvin Leal, a local Texas guy in the middle who can play outside as well. This guy is a pretty freaky athlete. He slides all over as being a great fit. And I'm also looking at Jermaine Johnson, this edge rusher from Florida State, just super built. I mean, he's a pit bull, man. This guy's pass rushing ability is he really just bull rushes whenever he goes at the squad, right? I also think the safety position is a valuable need for the Cowboys. I think they can really bolster up their defense there. And Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan, would be a great fit for them. He's a very explosive safety. I'm not taking another safety though for a little bit, right? So I'm going Jermaine Johnson, pass rusher for Florida State here. I just think at the end of the day, they're going to put more value on the edge rush. And I know they've already got some guys there. They've already got some really good players there, but you can never have enough, right? And I think that's what we're seeing over these past couple of years is depth at the pass rushing side is massive. And we're seeing teams load up. I mean, they're not just one player deep. They're two players, three players deep, right? Because it's huge. I mean, if you can always have somebody fresh going after the quarterback, I mean, that can really separate for sure. Number 25, we got the Buffalo Bills, man. A lot of people's favorites to win the Super Bowl last year. That was depressing that they didn't. I really thought that they were going to. And honestly, when I look at the Super Bowl right now with the Rams and the Bengals, like I would have probably wanted it to be, with with the Bills in there. I mean, and no hate on my guys in Cincinnati. I love them and I'm happy for them. But man, I really like Josh Allen this year, and I was really hoping he was going to pull it off. But you look at them, you look at their needs. I mean, a lot of different guys that you can go after here. You still got Tyler Linderbaum on the board, guys. Kenyon Green on the board. There's some really good players. It's honestly like they're in a spot where they can go best available. I'm not too sure the offensive line is that crazy of a need for them, but the fact that you're getting Trevor Penning here, they are weak at pass blocking to a certain extent. I just think this is something you're not going to really be able to avoid too much longer, right? So I'm going to take Trevor Penning here, which is a little bit weird of a pick, but I do think that when you look at this guy, he could be a franchise tackle. And that is exactly what the Bills could get younger at and also bolster up, right? They did not have one of the higher graded offensive lines this year. Tennessee Titans up next at number 26. This is a defense that can definitely get better. Linebacker position, I think, is always a great place to start. And I think for sure you go out and get Nakobe Dean. That could be a great, great dude for Mike Vrabel to utilize, right? The old linebacker from New England here. Bring in Nakobe Dean. Let's change the culture. Let's get this defense more rocking. They played great towards the end of the season, right? They were good for fantasy even too, right? And they can obviously pass rush, right? With Jeffrey Simmons and some of the other guys they've got there, they can get at the quarterback. Joe Burrow got the full fist of that, right? But they need to get better at stopping the run. They need to get better as a defense at large, right? Tom Brady, Liz, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are up on the clock. Kind of one of those situations where it's like like actually 27 and 28. These are very similar situations, the Bucks and the Packers. Um, for the purposes of this mock draft, which I'm already just kind of playing around with these guys, like I'm not too sure that any of these are real. Well, no, I'm pretty sure about a lot of these picks, but some of them I'm kind of messing with too to just get a new scenario out there to see how the board falls. And with the Bucks, they've got Kyle Trask, the old Florida quarterback. They've got Blaine Gabbert. Uh, for some reason, that's like Bruce Arians' pet specialist, right? Um, I don't see the quarterback there. There's rumors of Jimmy Garoppolo. There's rumors of a Jameis Winston return. I don't really see that either. I just see the Bucks as doing a rebuild and not really trying to get more expensive, but trying to get younger. And I don't think any of these quarterbacks really create a difference. But I do like the fact that they could get Matt Corral potentially here at number 27. Um, But it's just tough, man. It's tough. You look at the receiver spot too. I love Jahan Dotson before Tom Brady left. I thought that was a great pick for them. And then John and I talked about it last night. They're going to be losing some offensive linemen. I mean, they're going to be losing some offensive linemen here. They're going to be potentially losing Ryan Jensen. They got some other offensive linemen there that are going to be up for salary soon. I mean, it's tough. It's tough what they're going to be facing this year. And you get a guy like Kenyon Green here, who is probably the most versatile remaining offensive lineman. Tyler Linderbaum, the best offensive lineman remaining. I mean, he's a blue chip center, but um, I'm going to go Kenyon Green here for them at number 27. Get a guy who can slide around that line, get younger at a very important spot for the Bucs, which has been really what's kind of helped them over the past, 2 years now be as good as they are. Obviously, Tom Brady's helped, but having that strong offensive line has also been great for them. Green Bay Packers up next, number 28. This is a defense which was fantastic last year at just doing enough, right? Just doing enough to let Aaron Rodgers win the game. I'm going to go right back to DeMarvin Leal. My guy Spencer gave me the original shout out to take a look at this. Dude just fits the scheme to a T, right? The only other guy I like here a lot for them is Devontae Wyatt, who's an absolute badass for Georgia. Man, this guy is a beast, very freaky. Watching his Senior Bowl practices so far has been fun because this guy is just so electric. I think he'd be a great fit for them in Green Bay too. I think Leo and Wyatt are like two guys that easily could go here. I like Fedarian Mathis a lot from Alabama, but I don't know. I like the other dude's explosiveness a little bit more. So I'm taking Leo here, who's the most versatile edge rusher, D tackle left at this point. Number 29, the Miami Dolphins, which have just been getting their ass kicked recently in the news. And also getting their ass kicked with this draft pick because they got the 49ers draft pick and it's just been continuing to slide. It's now at 29. That's where it's going to end. But I mean, that just blows, right? I mean, you had a draft pick that you thought was going to be maybe a top 20 pick, and now it's all the way down here to the end, right? I mean, and there's so many needs for this Dolphins team. Now they're even less, attractive of an organization because of all the stuff going on in the media. But guess what? You got some optimism, guys. You've got the best offensive lineman available here in Tyler Linderbaum, which is fantastic. And you've also got Nicholas Petit Frere from Ohio State, a great offensive lineman. And you've got you got a couple other guys, right? You got a couple other guys. Alex Lindstrom, you can get him late. Me personally, the dude that makes a lot of sense to me is Bernard Raymond, offensive lineman from Central Michigan. The guy is fucking huge, bro. I think he's 6'8". I think that's what they were saying he was today on Senior Bowl practice, and he's like 330 or something. The guy's an absolute massive dude from Austria, built like just an absolute specimen. And what I'm looking at here is, do you go Bernard Raymond here or do you go Tyler Linderbaum? You got to address the offensive line just for the fact that I think you can go a little bit deeper too, and you can't let a guy like Tyler Linderbaum fall too far. I want to go him. But when it's tough, man, because you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go Tyler Linderbaum, even though I do like Rainman's upside a ton. It's just hard to go away from Rainman. I got a lot of love for that guy. Kansas City Chiefs up on the clock, man. They've just got to be pissed off right now. They've got to be pissed off. You look at that loss to the Bengals, and you're just thinking to yourself, you're like, I lost that game. Like we lost that game. Like the Bengals, they played great, but we lost that game. Why would we go for it in the red zone? Why did we just not make enough plays? Like we had the opportunity to win that game and we let it slip. And we had the ball on overtime and we let it slip and we had the turnover. Man, it's just disappointing. Patrick Mahomes really needs to reassess and kind of get to a better place. And we expect a lot of him, right? I mean, the guy's been to, 4 conference championships in a row now, and we're saying we need more from him, but we do. I mean, we expect more from this guy because he's being heralded as the next Tom Brady. You're looking at what they need. I definitely think the defense is a spot that they could get better. Nick Bolton, their rookie linebacker, before he really stepped on as being a tremendous player for them, a very good player for them. I thought linebacker was a great need for them. I thought Chad Muma would have been in a good spot. Christian Harris would have been in a good spot. But now you look at it and you say, let's try to get some help for Frank Clark or a Chris Jones in the middle. Get a dude who's very versatile, can make a lot of plays here. And you look at a guy like Devontae Wyatt, who Daniel Jeremiah is in love with as being a good spot here. I think he could make a lot of noise. Trayvon Walker, also the edge from Georgia, very explosive. I think those two guys from Georgia here could be great for them. Who knows what they do with Melvin Ingram if they bring him back coming off the edge as well. I mean, he kind of plays like a versatile spot of linebacker and pass rush, but I like Trayvon Walker for them here at pick 30. I think he's a great fit for that scheme too. Cincinnati Bengals coming back around. We're not letting Joe Burrow get hit again. We're taking my guy, Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle. And dude, as a Bengals fan, obviously you're in the Super Bowl, so that Jamar Chase pick worked out, but back-to-back years, you get a stud offensive tackle and a superstar receiver. I mean, that's amazing, right? Detroit Lions up next. 32nd pick in the draft, guys. 32nd pick in the draft. And you say, what the hell is this pick going to do for us, right? We got a lot of needs. We got a lot of needs. You look at best available. Obviously, Matt Corral's there. And that's a hint to what I'm looking at. But you take a look at the guys that are available, kind of best defense available too, because that's probably the main spot I think they need to improve. And I think that there's some guys that you can get later on. You can use the draft capital that you already have there, and that's where you can get better. Why don't we take a shot on a guy like Matt Corral, who's coming off the injury? He'll be healthy, when they need him. But Matt Corral's got great upside. He's got a firearm. The dude's a very explosive player. He's quick. He's mobile. He's probably like the second most athletic quarterback in this draft behind Malik Willis, which is still very athletic. And he's got a great arm, and he's a gunslinger. I like him sitting behind a Jared Goff for another year or two and learning from the system. And I think if you're the Lions here, take a late first-round pick on a quarterback and let him sit for a little bit. Let him learn the system. Let him get his his kind of feet wet a little bit. And people were calling for Jared Goff's name at the end of last year. To a certain extent, they were saying he sucked. I thought Jared Goff showed his chops and played well for the city. But I think Matt Corral here, whether it's coming in as a backup when Jared Goff's hurt, which is important, or whether it's him coming in as a starter, I think he will get some time to play next year. And with that said, guys, that has been the 2022 NFL mock draft. We are going to now shift gears a little bit here. I don't know if this is just saying this was the weirdest pick that I took. Okay, no, it's just kind of saying what I took here for these guys. Anyways, we are going to shift gears to fantasy, shift gears from the NFL hangout and discussion. But let's see what's been going on in the chat here. A lot of food talk. I have the job of cooking wings for our Super Bowl party. As of right now, I'm planning on cooking 100 plus wings. Spencer, you are in for a treat, brother. But yeah, that sounds intense. That's a lot of food to be cooking, a lot of wings to be cooking. I need to get to your house so I can engage in that. I mean, it's fire corner. D-line is their MO. Once I perfect the recipe, join. Oh my gosh. Eagles will almost for sure trade one of the picks for next year. Yeah, Ronald, I really like them trading a pick. I don't necessarily know if they'll trade up. I want to kind of play around with that scenario that they trade up in future mock drafts, but it's just a team where you can take two kind of loaded guys and then go after a Calvin Ridley or go after, whatever you want to do, or you can just trade it back and get some more draft capital, right? Maybe start building for 2023 when more quarterbacks are available if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out. Vikes highlights. Personally, I think he's going to be a big culture change, and he will bring a lot of offense to our team. Yeah, he will, man. Yeah, he will. He's going to be good. I like Harbaugh, man. Going to kill myself if we don't get a Harbaugh deal done. Yeah, dude, I like Harbaugh. I think he'd be really good for this Vikings squad. So I hope they get him. And obviously in the mock draft, I was kind of talking as though he was already there. I do think it's going to get worked out. I just think if Michigan really was going to try to keep him on their squad, they would have already done that, right? So I do think he's going to try to make another attempt back to the NFL, and we saw how good he was with San Francisco, man. I mean, he built a powerhouse in San Fran. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. The Lions may shift to a mediocre team over the next year or two. Dude, John, I think the Lions, Actually, no. Yeah, I think the Lions are going to be average, right? It's tough because I feel like certain teams are limited by their, location, and they're just never going to be a team where they bring in a ton of free agents, right? So it's going to have to be a team that drafts very well and can build organically. Um, but with that said, I mean, this is a division where I think they could become competitive if Aaron Rodgers is out. I like the Vikings' chances a lot next year. The Bears potentially could get their shit together with the new Matt Eberflus acquisition at the head coach spot there. And their defense has obviously got a lot of talent. So they could also get better as well. So it's a good division, honestly. But I do like the Lions. I do like the Lions. What's up, Jerry? How you doing, my guy? How are you doing? Got my robe on. Got my robe on. Do you like my robe, Jerry? It's a very comfy robe, but man, it also kind of wears me out. I get a little tired wearing it. So, Jerry, this article I actually came across today, and it kind of brought me to when you asked me the question if there's any Jamar Chases or Najee Harris's in this draft this year. And so I saw this article, Dynasty Fantasy Football Rankings Top 5 Rookie Wide Receivers. And I said, let's go through it. Let's break it down. Let's take a look at what they're saying. Let's see how that played out in my mock draft. And also, let's just see what I kind of think about it, right? Obviously, Garrett Wilson is somebody that they're taking a look at who's an absolute badass, right? But let's get into it right here, right? Number 1, Garrett Wilson, Ohio State, 6 foot, 190 pounds, 21 junior. Yeah, that guy's an absolute beast, dude. He was a fantastic player for them throughout his career at Ohio State. But yeah, he had that breakout year, sophomore year. I think Garrett Wilson, just on his build and the comps I'm seeing and kind of just seeing his tape, and I want to break him and Chris Olave down a little bit more to really kind of see who I like for sure out of the two of them. But right now, it's definitely Garrett Wilson. I do think he's the best receiver in the draft right now. And I think he could go, if he goes, where I had him at number 10, I think he would be a ball hog for that Jets team. I mean, I think he comes in day one and is the best receiver there and can have a good season. I mean, we saw, Zach Wilson support a rookie receiver and Elijah Moore. I mean, they are able to feed those guys and they know how to feed their top players. And, Elijah Moore is much more of a gadget guy. I think if they got, if they bring in a receiver like Garrett Wilson, who a lot of people are thinking he might go to the Jets, he could be great for them, right? Anywhere he goes, he's going to be fantastic. He is going to be fantastic. I would pull up this clip, but I feel like it might have sounds. Number 2, oh man, it's going to say I've got to get PFF Edge. That's annoying. But number 2, Treylon Burks, Arkansas. I think he is a really top type of receiver in this draft class and could be probably the best fantasy asset. For me, it does matter a lot about fit, where these guys are going to go. Treylon Burks is the dude who I think is going to be used very similar to Debo. We saw had that worked out for Debo fantasy-wise, right? But I do kind of put Garrett Wilson and a Drake London a bit above him. But he's got that athleticism, man. The guy's a burner. So I do like Treylon Burks a lot too, my man. Here's another article that hopefully will not make me pay to read it. Because also I took a peek at this and it's a very interesting article. I kind of want to see what you guys think about this because I'm not loving it. It says must have running backs 2022 fantasy football. It's from Fantasy Pros. And the first guy they're talking about is Cordero Patterson. So already I've got some question marks. This was the big one-time wonder, I think, was the 2021 Fantasy Award specialist for this guy. So let's get into it. John, let me know what you think. Let me know what you guys think. Must have running backs, patty and cheese. Yeah, right? I mean, it's kind of weird, right? But yeah, so up first, we actually talking about Javonte Williams. I like this a lot. We saw PFF actually grade him as the number 1 2022 fantasy running back. I'd like to see what John thinks about this guy because I know he carried him all year. A lot of you guys out there carried him for a full season and he didn't pan out because he didn't get the work, right? Javonte Williams is going to get that shot next year more than likely, right? More than likely, Melvin Gordon's going to move on and we're going to see a full healthy dosage of Javonte Williams. And we saw this guy very similar to Nick Chubb. I mean, that's probably my best comp for Javonte Williams is Nick Chubb. I think even if they don't improve at the quarterback spot, I mean, even if they don't get an A-Rod or one of these big quarterbacks, he's still going to be dominant. But if they do get like an Aaron Rodgers, which it's most likely that he does go there now, pairing that up with the Packers system, bringing over the offensive coordinator and the tight end coach, this is going to be a running back that's used very much so like the Packers use the running back spot. I think he's going to get a shit ton of touchdown opportunities. So, yeah, definitely a first-round pick. It's going to be interesting to see where this guy goes in mock drafts and where this guy goes come draft day, because this could be a guy, barring any injury or setback, especially if Melvin Gordon's gone, could be like a top 5 pick. Elijah Mitchell, San Francisco running back. This is a weird one. This is weird, man. I also kind of want to get your gauge on this too, guys. I'm not loving this pick here, right? Elijah Mitchell was obviously fantastic for the San Francisco 49ers, but it's weird, right? I think, John, you would agree with me that, the 49ers historically have been a system that's very hard to kind of predict in terms of what the running back is going to be looking like. They're very committee back approach. I mean, they have 3 or 4 running backs at times. This season was different because, they didn't have 3 or 4 running backs at times, but instead what they did was Deebo Samuel, their wide receiver, was their running back, right? It's just like, what the hell? Like, we can't necessarily count on Elijah Mitchell being a fantastic back. I mean, I don't necessarily know if this article is saying he's going to be your RB1. I do think, getting this guy as maybe your back end RB2 isn't terrible. Like, I'm seeing the article say now, but I would not reach for this dude because, Trey Sermon could have just been a complete bust, but if he comes back and plays, decent, they're going to give him carries. Who knows? Maybe they sign back Raheem Mostert, who's been beloved for that 49ers organization over the years. Probably not, though. And then you still got Deebo Samuel, who's going to get running work as well. There's no way they look at what Deebo did this year at the running position. I mean, running the ball straight as the running back or in reverses and not feed him a shit ton next year, right? So, especially because I think Deebo's in his last year of his contract, too. So they're going to try to beat that dude to a pulp. But yeah, Elijah Mitchell I'm not as high as this article is. Let's see. Rashad Penny. I know you guys have some love for my man Rashad Penny here. Ronald in particular, I think you're a big fan of Rashad Penny. This dude literally won you championships, fantasy championships. And so I think he's gonna, people are gonna remember that to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, too, this guy is a free agent, right? Like, we don't know if he's going to be Seattle. We don't know if he's going to be on another team. I think when you look at Rashad Penny, you cannot draft this guy and think that he's going to be your RB1 or RB2. You have to take a shot on this guy as being like a flex spot, not for the reason of athleticism or anything like that. It's just based off of longevity. Like, is he going to be there for you throughout the season to be an RB1 or 2, right? Historically, he's had a shit ton of injury problems. I know some of you guys don't really like to consider that. It's not fair. John, I know you don't always like to consider the injury part to it. And, to a certain extent, like, you can't, right? But when you look at Rashad Penny in his career, I mean, the guy literally has been hurt like 24/7. So I do think, he deserves to go late in the draft either way. But this could be a guy that goes in, I don't know, 5th to 8th round, and you get that dude, and he becomes a massive championship or fantasy league type of back for you, like a fantasy league winner type of running back for you. Dude is built amazingly, and his athleticism and explosiveness is off the charts. I mean, like I said, he won leagues for people this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he did it next year. Let's see this. Ronald, but I don't trust he plays any more than 5 games. I was a fan this year. Not next. Let's see. John said, I don't mind this list so far. Based on their ADP right now, ADP, what a silly thing. Yes, it is a silly thing. It is a silly thing, but it ends up paying out a little bit, especially, outside of that top 3 rounds. I feel like a lot of people just draft off of ADP. Talking about ADP here, Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson. Patty and cheese, guys. Patty and cheese. Spencer, shout out for nicknaming Patty and Cheese. Dude, you gave that nickname like week 1 or 2, man. Just shout out for you being with us for that long, dude, and coining the first nickname in the Catch Fam history, really, that I can think of. So let's actually break this guy down and not just talk about how cool Spencer is. Cordero Patterson is a fantastic asset for fantasy. Obviously, he's very much so like Deebo Samuel. Older, right? 30 years old, as the article talks about. But with no sign that that's going to necessarily wind down this year. He did kind of slow down towards the back half of the season. And probably because this was his first year getting as much work as he did. It would be interesting to see if Atlanta went at him again. If this dude was not like the RB1, 2, and 3 for the team, kind of like he was in Atlanta where he was used so much, you have to expect his fantasy value is going to drop tremendously. And who knows where he's going to be, right? But I do think this guy demands a draft pick. I wouldn't personally take him in my top 5 rounds. I don't necessarily know he's going to go there. I don't think he will, but depending on where he gets signed, he certainly could land there. John, you kind of get to it, right? You're talking about kind of it's like ADP base and everything, and you see right here 83.3. So doing some math off my head, right? That's got him around what, like the 7th or 8th round. That's a pretty good spot for him. And he's got the upside, obviously, to break into it. But man, you cannot expect Cordero Patterson and Cheese to have any kind of season like he did this year. It would just be mind-boggling to me. I mean, this dude, what he did this year was pretty ridiculous. Let's see here. Chase Brown, the only goal I have for next season is not drafting injury-prone players the best I can. That has prevented me from doing really good past 2 years. Well, then, brother, I would probably recommend you don't draft Rashad Penny. That would be my best bet. But he's a great player. Patterson is said to be a free agent, right? Yeah, that is. But I do feel like Arthur Smith and his Falcons team is going to recognize what he did this year and probably give him a contract, especially because he's going to be. I don't know. Depends on how much he's demanding because he did play really well right before the contract. You couldn't pay me to draft CP. Yeah, Ronald, I don't blame you at all, man. When you're drafting CP, you're drafting a guy that you know is not going to perform to his ADP more than likely, or at least outperform last season or even get close to it, right? So I think he's going to be a guy that dupes a lot of people. I mean, I got his jersey and I love his jersey. I wish I wore it today. But this is a one-time wonder for a reason. There's a clear difference between him and Deebo Samuel. I compared him and Deebo, but very, very big difference. I think Deebo is going to be here for a long time, and I think Cordero Patterson, he had his time in the sun, and it's time to move on. At Chase Brown this past year, it was impossible to avoid. I will literally pay you. Yeah, I will pay you too, Ronald. I'll pay you too, just to see how angry you get. Or CMC, LOL. The CMC curse got me last 2 years. Jim Harbaugh doesn't want us. No way. No way. Wait, Anthony, did something come out about Harbaugh? Let us know. But no, Christian McCaffrey's interesting, right? Because you look at kind of where he's being mocked at right now, where he's kind of being ranked. You're still seeing Christian McCaffrey go in the first round, which I think he absolutely should be drafted in the first round. But you talk to a lot of people out there, just like yourself, they're disappointed, they're sad, they're upset, they're angry at Christian McCaffrey because of his injuries recently, right? And you got to expect that Carolina is going to start, unwinding the high usage from Christian. You can't use him like they've been using him because he's getting hurt too much recently. I know John would not draft him in the first round. I know a lot of people would not draft him in the first round just because they're so angry at him. I personally would, and I had to deal with him for a year where he was off the field. But when you look at Christian McCaffrey, you got to understand that you're getting the best back in the league fantasy-wise, in my opinion. And that's including Jonathan Taylor. I mean, if they're both healthy for a full season, Christian McCaffrey is better in my mind than Jonathan Taylor. So I'd like to see what you guys think about that. But that's kind of where I settle. That's where I settle. Let's see here. Let's see if there's anything else going on. Guys, let me know if there's any, fantasy stuff that's really been popping for you guys or any question you guys have. We did the rankings on PFF the other week, and it was pretty interesting. We didn't really agree with a lot of the PFF rankings. But with that said, I mean, you look at it and you kind of say, it's early. Not a lot of people are really that baked into 2022 quite yet. Um, I will say this, right? I think this draft and this offseason and kind of the next couple weeks is going to make a big difference in terms of what goes on. I mean, we're going to see things probably start to speed up here very quickly in terms of fantasy impact and changes, which is just going to coincide with, John and I are going to be putting out a lot more fantasy mock drafts and a lot more fantasy content because it's early, right? But at the same time, too, this is where things really start to heat up, like I was saying. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. Thoughts on Ridley for next season? Yeah. I talked about this a little bit in one of my mock drafts recently. You know, I think Calvin Ridley's a tremendous player. I think he's fantastic. I just think when you look at this guy and you kind of say, all right, like, what is Calvin Ridley going to be a year removed from football? Um, you got question marks, right? You also say, all right, if you're going to trade for a guy like Calvin Ridley, because he's not going to be a Falcon next year, you got to say, can this guy come to my team and I deserve to pay him top dollar because he's going to demand a high contract because he's up for a contract in a year. He's also pretty old too. I think he's like 28 years old as well, which is old for receiver standards. This is not like a young guy straight on his rookie contract. And then on a fantasy perspective, I think you got to look at Calvin Ridley. I mean, shit, what he was like a second or no, he was like a third round pick, back half second kind of guy this year. Really proved himself the year before. And people thought, man, without Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley is going to pop off, bro. I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys. He was my third ranked receiver coming into the year. I love the dude. I still love the dude. I think from a fantasy perspective, is absolutely a guy you should go and grab. If he is back on the field with the team and he's at practice and everything in training camp, and it's not looking like he's going to sit out again, I definitely think you got to go out and grab a Calvin Ridley type of dude. I'd be interested to see what John thinks about him. I know he was much more against him than I was for whatever reason. Maybe you weren't against him, but you were just more on the wave of going after a guy like DK Metcalf. Let's see here. Amon-Ra St. Brown or Hollywood Brown. Yeah, very interesting dudes. Very interesting dudes to kind of compare. I think they're totally different players. Hollywood Brown, big time explosion. We'll see if Antonio Brown, his cousin, ends up there as well. But I like Hollywood Brown a lot. I think if he can stay healthy and Lamar can be there, I think he's got really good upside. We saw him actually for the first time really break out this year, which was impressive. I mean, I was happy to see it. But at the end of the day, you can't really count on his target volume. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown for Detroit is a safer snag. I think they're going to go in relatively similar areas too. It depends a little bit, right? If you really think Lamar is going to make a difference in his passing game this year, and it's not just going to be Mark Andrews like it always has been, then maybe, right? But then you got to start factoring in also Rashad Bateman. It's going to be back with a full year under his belt. He was a very impressive young rookie receiver last year when he played. I am not willing to take a dart throw on Hollywood Brown again. I traded for him. I traded Antonio Gibson for him because at the time, the two were, complete opposite directions. And we saw Hollywood do what he always does, which is fizzle out, man. I mean, he's a guy for maybe like best ball or something that you can take these big games where he has one or two touchdowns and where he lights it up. But too often he is just like 5-6 points and you're just pissed off. Let's see here. Chase saying, give me St. Brown all day. Yeah, man, St. Brown it's funny how much of a fan favorite St. Brown is. Like, maybe it is just because just like Rashad Penny, he really came in there and won championships for people. And I think that's going to carry. We always see it where people have momentum going into the next year. But you look at a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, you are drafting a player part of Detroit, right? So you look at Hawkinson, he's obviously going to be very relevant. Swift, he's going to be very relevant, and then it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do think that the Lions, with that 32nd pick, they probably don't go receiver anymore. I mean, before we knew where the Rams pick was going to wind up, I could have seen them going out and getting another receiver to bolster up that receiving core. Who knows? They might still draft a guy in the second or third round. There's going to be a lot of talent, but I think right now we're going to see it be Amon-Ra Saint's, receiving core, and he's going to be that guy there for sure. By the way, he's amazing in Madden. I really love that guy in Madden. TJ Hawkinson or Dawson Knox. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those deals, like, I think in the past it's a good question, John. I think in the past, like, I've always seen myself as somebody that just attacks volume. That's all I want. I just want volume. If you get me 8 to 10 targets a game, I don't give a shit if you are a non-explosive, non-athletic player. I am going to attack you on the draft boards. Just to pull this up to see kind of where they're going right now. You can see Hawkinson at number 6, so right outside basically where he was last year. And then Dawson Knox at 10. I think Dawson Knox is being slept on. I know Ronald is not a massive he's not a massive lover of Dawson Knox like I am, but I mean, dude, you talk about Pat Fryermuth being above him in Fantasy Pros rankings. Dude, Pat Fryermuth is losing Ben Roethlisberger. That's a big deal, bro. Deontay Johnson, Pat Fryermuth, I have got them falling down in my rankings because of the loss to Ben Roethlisberger. I don't give a shit if he sucked, dude. He hyper fed them. Pat F, especially in the red zone. Dawson Knox, on the other hand, you tie him, you tie Dawson Knox to Josh Allen in this explosive offense. I love his ability to get those touchdowns. And he was injured for a couple games too this season, and he still lit it up. And he was still a great fantasy asset, right? But on the Hawkinson side, you got the target volume. Like I said, you got a lot of target volume. He's the number 1 read for Jared Goff. He had a tremendous season until getting banged up towards the back half. But for me personally, I'm going Dawson Knox here for sure. It's not even a question in my mind. Ridley won't play for the Falcons. He said he doesn't want to play there. Yeah, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Would you want to play there? I mean, that place is pretty miserable right now. Matt Ryan is just kind of hanging on to dear life. He's the last remaining quarterback of, that old era where it was okay and acceptable to be a quarterback that can't move, can't run. I mean, geez, dude, it's just I do kind of like him. I kind of like Matt Ryan, but if I'm a receiver, Calvin Ridley, it is cool to get out of there. I'd be interested to see actually where. Okay, so Fantasy Pros has Calvin Ridley in that tier 4 group, right? Wow, I think you're going to be able to get some value on this guy. Tier 4 is an interesting group, right? Let's take a look at some of these guys in this core right here. You got Calvin Ridley, all right, Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks. These 4 dudes, the reason I highlighted those guys is because there's all questions if they're going to be on the current team that they were last year. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jones has come out and said he's been disappointed with. Michael Thomas obviously probably is like already getting his plane tickets to leave New Orleans. Brandon Cooks wants no part of the future of that Houston team, and Calvin Ridley wants no part of Atlanta. All 4 of these guys, though, if they move on, could be definitely in that tier 3 category. I think Calvin Ridley in particular is a guy more than likely we could see jump into that tier 3. That's where he deserves to be in my mind. I mean, you look at guys that are currently in there, very strong class as well, but I would not be surprised if we saw guys like Deontay Johnson maybe slide back a little bit, and a guy like Calvin Ridley, if he lands in the right spot, really move up the charts. Metcalf or Hopkins, right back to back in that tier 3 group there in the half PPR, rankings on Fantasy Pros. And by the way, I mean, we already talked about this, but Fantasy Pros, I feel like much more in line with what John and I think than maybe PFF on the fantasy side, right? Shout out to both these guys; they both do a great job. But John, you love Metcalf, you love him. I don't really love either of these guys. Um, I love them as players, so don't get me wrong, but, I mean, what if in Seattle, DK Metcalf doesn't have Russell Wilson next year? This year was a very interesting season for, DK, and for DeAndre, I'm even less interested in because we just saw obviously, they need him, like, obviously, he's a massive part of his team, but there's just so much of a ball spread. I mean, they give the ball to a ton of different guys, at least in this Cliff Kingsbury offense. So until Cliff's gone and until they maybe redesign their offense and hyper target their best player on offense, I'm just not too interested in spending a high draft pick on a guy like him. Remember when the catch was high on Knox? Yeah, John used to be in love with Dawson Knox. I love Dawson Knox. But yeah, John used to be obsessed with them, man. He would like literally talk about him like every day we were on together. I'm pretty sure he had like a boy crush on him. Totally acceptable though, man. Dawson Knox a beast, dude. I remember he like what was he like? He broke his thumb or something and threw a touchdown or a 2-point conversion to Josh Allen. I mean, that's some badass shit right there. DeAndre Swift or Zeke? This is an interesting question too. Um, I like DeAndre Swift just straight off the bat. But Zeke is still a badass for Dallas. It's just like I think it is finally. Let me know, guys, what you think. But I think it's finally time to admit Zeke's status as being RB1 for this Dallas Cowboys team. No questions asked. Might be in question. We might be talking about Pollard and him having a very even split going forward. Whether or not they look at maybe trading Zeke or if something happens and Pollard just resumes more of a role. I mean, Zeke had a good year. I feel like I don't want to come across as totally negative on Zeke, but there's a reason he's in a tier 3 RB core right now for fantasy rankings. He was not as elite as he should have been. People took him in the first round and he did not pan out. You look at a couple of the guys above him, like a Saquon Barkley, a Montgomery, um, and a DeAndre Swift. I could see all three of them finishing above them, except finishing above Zeke Elliott, except for Saquon Barkley. I don't know where to place Saquon right now. Probably not tier 3 though. Probably tier 4, just because I really don't like Saquon. But DeAndre Swift, I think is a dude that if he can somehow figure out how to stay healthy for a full fantasy season, this guy would have been, he would have been top 8 as a running back. I mean, we were seeing that kind of pace for DeAndre. And he wanted to come back. All credit to him. He wanted to come back in the back half of the year. I think the Lions just made the smart move with him and Hawkinson and just said, we're not going to bring you back. There's no need. I mean, we're kind of done. I'll always be high on Dawson Knox. 1777 memorabilia. What's going on, bro? Oh, I got a little tight neck tonight. Tight neck tonight, boys. Who was the Super Bowl fixed for? Who was getting that 100K? McVay or Taylor? I think if you're going to say it's fixed for anybody, man, it's 100P fixed for the Rams. Just based off of market size, I think the Rams are a much more attractive team to have win it all. And it's also, I mean, that's the jersey selling team here. I mean, obviously, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon are very attractive players, but the Rams have everybody. Sean McVay's ton of fun. LA just got their team in LA, and they got a new stadium, and they're playing in the stadium. I mean, everything is setting up for a totally ref-rigged game. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. What does everyone think of the Super Bowl matchup? Is it boring? Are you expecting a big game? I personally expect a competitive game. It's round over under of 50 points right now, so I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I think that's one thing you can always expect with Joe Burrow is if the other team can score, it's going to be high scoring. We saw the Tennessee Titans game. It was kind of gross. It's kind of boring. But that's because the Titans are kind of boring, right? The Rams are not. Cooper Kupp, OBJ, Cam Akers, Sonny Michel, gunslinger Matt Stafford. It's going to be a game where we see some passing for sure, I think. I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if Sean McVay does something, which I think would be foolish. But if Sean McVay said, hey, Matt, I'm going to give it to you. You're going to be the guy. You're going to go win the Super Bowl, and you're going to pass it up and down the field. I think that's going to get them into a bad spot, especially with Trey Hendrickson, the edge rusher for Cincinnati. That guy's a badass. I think that could cause some serious issues for them. But I just don't know if they're going to lean on guys like Cam Akers after all the fumbles, and if they're going to lean on a guy like Sony Michel, who's seen limited work in the postseason. Look at games like if they were real as a boomer, new age is here, and we talking. I just want to figure out who it's rigged for. What do you think? Yeah, we do see a lot of rigging in the postseason. I will say that. I expect it to be a good game. Chase versus Ramsey going to be good too. Yeah, it's always interesting to see these matchups. I mean, obviously, when we last think about Ramsey, he was getting burned by Mike Evans, or in the face of a kicker, Robbie Gould, and talking shit to him. Absolute savage, Jalen Ramsey is. I love him. He's one of my favorite players. But I think that matchup is going to be primetime TV for sure, and I think Jalen Ramsey is going to win that matchup. We've seen Jamar Chase disappear at times throughout the season, and I think this is going to be a situation where I think both these guys are, tremendous athletes, tremendous players, and they're going to be primed for the moment. But Jalen Ramsey is a whole nother different type of cat, and I think he is going to create some problems for Jamar Chase. And that's okay because you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd, you got other options for the Cincinnati Bengals offense. In fact, if I were looking at odds on, who was going to be the receiving leader in yards, it would not be Jamar Chase in this game. I think it could be fixed for the Rams because they're at home in that $1 billion stadium. Yeah, that $1 billion stadium is fresh. I heard they have basically sound pumping into the stadium at all times. It just always sounds like a concert. But I also just heard it's super high tech. I think the cheapest tickets right now for it are $6K or something. But I mean, that's literally nosebleed seats. I mean, it's going to be a fun game and beautiful stadium. And I think it'll be cool for it also to be in LA. I love how Stafford finally gets his shot against the young buck Burrow. Happy for two regardless, but rooting for Bengals slightly more. Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Stafford and Burrow, it's interesting because Stafford, the old wily vet from Detroit, who is finally getting his chance, and you get Joe Burrow, right, the underdog from Akron, Ohio, who is proving that he overcomes the small hand size, which he's been joking around about, and he joked around about when he was getting drafted, saying that he was going to retire because of his small hands, he won't be able to handle a football. You got two guys with a lot of swagger, a lot of poise, which I didn't always think about Matt Stafford until this year. But I think both these guys are going to be primed for the moment, and that's what's going to be most fun for me is just seeing the coaching duel and the quarterback duel. I will say Sean McVay is the way better offensive mind in my opinion. I mean, Zach Taylor had some really boneheaded calls. He just kept running it on first down for some god awful reason. When they should have been opening it up a little bit. But I do like Zach Taylor a lot as a coach in the sense of just kind of the fact that he always seems to get his team adjusted in the second half. Burrow has really nice hair. Gronk will not be on that list come draft time. Yeah, Gronk's an interesting guy to talk about because, I mean, just he's a fun one in terms of his entire career. I mean, and as a fantasy asset this year, it was really bizarre because he started off the season hotter than any player maybe in fantasy, and then very quickly was super irrelevant. But yeah, man, I mean, it kind of just speaks to Gronk's entire career of when the dude is healthy, he's the best tight end in the game. And we're going to know him as maybe the best tight end to ever play. But injuries were always a thing with him. I mean, just think about how much longer he could have played ball if he never got hurt. Let's see here. Shanahan got that 100K though. Yeah, I had a feeling Rams would make the bowl when Weddle got that penalty versus the Bucks, and they said it happened after the fourth down. It was just like the Rams versus Saints NFC. I wonder if any white coaches will come out and say they were paid to lose on purpose. So I will say about the Rams Saints game. I think I watched a highlight the other day, and they were actually showing that it was the Nickel Roby Coleman play where he just absolutely blasted the receiver. And Sean Payton, I wouldn't be surprised if that's why Sean Payton retired. Sean Payton was just I just saw a highlight of that play again, and I just decided to leave the NFL. I think that's why Sean Payton's conference went on for 2 hours because he just went so crazy after that play call. But that was probably the biggest boneheaded ref call I've ever seen in my life. If you guys think there was a bigger boneheaded call, let me know. DK and Evans losing their quarterback. Mike Evans is one one that I think is going to be really interesting to see next season. John, you also mentioned Godwin potentially leaving. I've heard a lot of rumors about Godwin. I've heard the New York Jets. I've heard the Philadelphia Eagles. Both spots I think Ronald would love, or I think Ronald would love if Godwin was with Philly, right? Whether it's Godwin or Calvin Ridley, I think you would be happy about that. But I've heard some rumors, right? And Godwin coming back to Pennsylvania as he was a Pittsburgh or Penn State receiver back in college, so that'd be cool for him. But I definitely think he's going to be seeking out top dollar. And then so when you look at Mike Evans, right, you're losing Tom Brady, who was obviously a big part of your fantasy success, but he's also going to probably be like the 1A, 1B receiver in Tampa, right? Because if Godwin's gone, Brown's gone, and the receivers are pretty decimated. Gronkowski's not there anymore. OJ Howard's not there anymore. I think that whoever is playing quarterback for them is going to probably hyper target Mike Evans, and he is a walking 1,000-yard receiver who can get near 10 touchdowns a season. Obviously, before Brady, he still had another quarterback, was a very fantasy supportive type of quarterback in Jameis Winston. There have been rumors that Jameis Winston might be on the way back to Tampa Bay, which would be interesting. Guys, again, keep your eyes out for Bruce Arians. He might randomly retire. That's not out of the question with him. But right now, they've got him as a tier 3 receiver. I would be very skeptical in drafting him in that tier 3. I just think there's probably going to be other running backs I like more there. Other guys I like more there. I mean, I like Chris Godwin more than him. It's just tough. It really depends. Again, he's going to see the target volume, but it depends on how shitty that quarterback spot gets in Tampa. I still think they're going to try to be competitive. So I don't think they're going to roll out with Kyle Trask playing Gabbert, but apparently there's a lot of confidence in both those kids right now. So it's a little scary. And Blaine Gabbert ain't a kid. He's a grown man. He's been in the league for a while. Let's see, man. McVay is overrated. Last game he melted down, but Niners saved him. But yeah, tough call since these games are fixed now. We don't really know. I don't know if we can call McVay overrated, but I mean, the guy is 36 years old in his second Super Bowl and one of the best offensive minds, I think. I mean, the way he uses the layering scheme with the receiver patterns and has really been able to do it with kind of a diverse set of skill guys. I mean, he's got a lot of really good players, obviously, for him, but I also just love his scheme. And dude's, again, 36 years old. Like, that means something. But Sean McVay does kind of melt down. We were talking last night. We talked about his stupid-ass challenges that he did. And Sean McVay has seemed to choke a lot in this postseason. When they were up big on Tampa, they gave it up because they made some boneheaded calls. Obviously, they had, the fumbles, but they also just really kind of got soft. They stopped attacking. And then in that conference championship against San Francisco, I thought the coaching difference, I thought Kyle Shanahan won that game coaching. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sean McVay chokes on the big stage. He did that last time he was there. He did that last time when he played New England. Let's see here. Ooh, this is a good question here. This is a good question. Also, John shouting out Zach Taylor as being coach of the year. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't know. There's a couple guys out there. Mike Vrabel, I know, is in the cards as being that dude. Zach Taylor, though, man. Most improved? Can you get most improved coach? I know you can't, but that'd be cool because I do think he deserves it. Frank Reich, too. Shout out Indianapolis Colts. Frank Reich, outstanding. But yeah, screw you, Frank Reich, until you give me a quarterback. I hate you. Interesting question here from John. David Montgomery or Antonio Gibson? So let me just tell you this, guys. The Antonio Gibson top running back hype train is already brewing. People are already talking about this guy being an absolute locked and loaded stud RB1 next year. And I'm not buying onto that wave until I see it. I'm not buying onto this guy changing the Washington Commanders quite yet. We'll see what they do with the quarterback spot. I think if they got a guy like Malik Willis or even a Matt Corral, they could really open up this offense a little bit. I don't think Taylor Heineke is the dude that's going to be there next year. They were super banged up too, so the offense definitely suffered. They've got a strong O-line, so all the supporting mechanisms can be around there if they just improve the quarterback spot. And I think Antonio Gibson's athleticism and explosiveness, I mean, he can be an RB1. It really just depends on how they use him and is he's healthy, right? We saw in the back half of the year, the guy just started being an absolute animal because of his usage rate. But that also kind of corresponded with, their why am I forgetting his name right now? The guy was amazing. Who was the Washington football team's third down running back last year? JD McKissick, right? JD McKissick. He was injured last back half of the year, and that's where Gibson really started taking hold of that spot, started getting more third down work too, right? And they had success when they did that. So I think if he does kind of assume that role, this is absolutely an RB1 type of guy. I'm just not banking on it. I would take him in the second round, though. Again, I would, I did it last season, and I would probably do it again, just because you look at some of the other guys that are going to be in that spot, and I would definitely take him there. Let's see here. What is good, Aiden? How are you doing, my guy? Ronald, got to peace out and hit the pharmacy before it closes late. Yeah, man. Later, Ronald. Have a good one, my guy. Hope all is well at the pharmacy. Get some chocolate. Chocolate is tasty. Talk to you next time, Ronald. So what else is going on with you guys, man? What else is going on with you guys? I see the chat is still out here in full force. We got 10 y'all out here. That's what's up. 8 now. So thanks, Ronald. You're starting to cast some guys out of here. But Ronald, when you come back here, let me just tell you, man, I'm gonna start talking to you a lot about the Eagles. But guys, when you look at this, when you look at fantasy for next season, we're gonna start unwinding or start popping out here some rookie mock drafts as well. I've been doing the NFL mock drafts, which is just kind of seeing where these guys are gonna wind up, kind of like today I did. But in the future, we're gonna do more rookie mock drafts, right? To see where you take these rookies, start talking a little bit more about their dynasty value, to really kind of separate out some of those guys' fantasy impact, right? Because we already talked about the Garrett Wilsons, we talked about the Treylon Burks, right? There's going to be some running backs though that we really need to start talking about, because even though they're not first round picks in the NFL draft, they're going to be guys that are very relevant for fantasy. You look at that dude. I mean, the rookie running backs always seem to go in this tier 4, tier 3. This is where they wind up. And then you get those guys to jump into the tier 1. I was listening to something in the beginning of this fantasy season and talking about how kind of the peak age for running backs is in that right out of college zone up until around 25, right? So the best time to get your running backs and to use them is very early on, right? And I think that's what we're going to see. I mean, I think the fact that you can get in a tier 5 back like Travis Etienne Jr. For the Jacksonville Jaguars is a fantastic pick. I mean, he's the type of guy exactly, this young running back with a lot of versatile third down back type of work you need to look at, right? So these rookie mock drafts that we're going to be putting out, really just highlighting these guys that are going to be relevant not only for your real NFL teams that you root for, but for your fantasy team type of research that you can start putting together and start thinking about what you want to do. Any early guesses on where Godwin goes? Yeah, I mean, I think Godwin, it's going to be interesting because I think he's going to probably take highest bid. I think Godwin deserves that too. And coming off the injury, he's going to be in a spot where his pay scale is going to go down as opposed to what he probably deserves, because you could probably put him at wide receiver 2 in the free agent class, which I'm going to break down next week, actually, is the free agents that are looking like they're going to come in. Actually, no, I'm going to probably break that down either with John or by myself, depending on what we want to do. But I'm going to break that down after the Super Bowl. It's a little bit more kind of relevant there, I guess. But I think Chris Godwin's going to be like the wide receiver 2 out of this free agent class. And so he's going to be deserving of that money. So I think he's going to go to a team that has that money, right? Which is the New York Jets for sure. I think the Jets are going to be really out there going after him. I mean, you saw that I took, Garrett Wilson, receiver for Ohio State there for the Jets. If they could get a Chris Godwin and improve the offense through free agency and then come into the draft and improve that defense, that's really the best way to go in my mind. Boss Man Fat, what is going on, my guy? What round do you think Bryce Hall will go, or Brees Hall will go in fantasy? You know, I gotta say, I gotta do more research on the rookie mock drafts. But with that said, too, I mean, I would say Brees Hall is going to be, in my mind, a top. He's going to be probably second round back, third round probably. I think latest he slips in terms of the real NFL draft, and I think especially just dependent on where he goes because this is a 3 down running back. He's going to be a hot commodity in fantasy. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw him go kind of around where Javonte Williams went this year, which is around that round 6, round 7 spot. I could see it being even a little bit later, right? But I mean, you look at this tier 6, for example, right? You get a Brees Hall, he's going to come in. He's probably going to be a pretty big workhorse for whatever team drafts him because that's the type of back Brees Hall is, right? There's other backs that are specialists, right? 3rd down backs, 2 down backs that are specialists that are maybe better at doing their role a little bit better than Brees Hall. Like James Cook, for instance, from Georgia. I think he's a better 3rd down back. But Brees Hall gives you something that not the rest of them do, which is 3 downs. So I think he's going to be that tier 6, maybe tier 5. Probably not tier 5, though. Probably tier 6. And he's going to be able to play himself into a very, very high value draft pick because he's going to outperform where he's picked. When he gets, you do need to target him for sure. He is one of those guys that I'm very high on. Mike Williams is set to be a free agent, which could be interesting. What's up, Boston Fat? Yeah, what is up, Boston Fat? Thanks for jumping in here, by the way. Yeah, Mike Williams is going to be interesting. I don't know. I actually heard something today about maybe Juju Smith-Schuster going to the Chargers, which I don't see will happen. I don't think that'll happen. But I will say that Mike Williams is somebody that in fantasy, I have no interest in ever again. I didn't have interest in him last year either. I mean, I guess we talked about him a little bit throughout the season as just being kind of a guy who maybe outperformed what we were expecting. But to be honest, man, I don't want to take a shot on a guy like Mike Williams, who every year has given us the same data. He's super injury prone and is just never there when you need him and is very boom or bust. Granted, the boom is huge, right? If he's not getting it done with Justin Herbert on a consistent basis, though, he's not going to get it done with someone else. I totally see Kansas City going out and getting him, though. I feel like he's such a Kansas City type of player. What are the receivers do you guys want the Chiefs to go after? I'd be interested to see what you guys would think there because me personally, like, I think they really need to attack the receiver spot this year. And I think a great way to do that is to go through the free agency. I mean, the draft is obviously a great spot as well. You got Purdue, Devontae Bell, or forgetting his first name right now, but Bell from Purdue is a fantastic player that can play inside and outside, and he's going to be available for him. But for me personally, I think you guys can go out and the Chiefs can go out and get another big name free agent, and that would be good. I like Juju Smith-Schuster a lot for him too. Bro, Mike G is going to be a free agent. Mike G. Oh, really? Is he? I didn't know that. I saw Juju wanted to come to the Cowboys. LOL, nah. Dude, Juju would be sick for them, man. Are you kidding me? They would have, I mean, you got to expect they're going to lose Michael Gallup, maybe Cedric Wilson, who's also a free agent. Who knows what they do with Amari Cooper? I mean, honestly, if I were the GM of the Cowboys, I would trade Amari Cooper for capital, retain Michael Gallup and Cedric Wilson. And that's kind of how I would roll with that. I find like Amari Cooper is kind of like a waste of his big cap hit. But I like Juju Smith-Schuster. I like him a lot, man. Fantasy-wise, maybe not so much. But as an actual player, I think he's really good, especially in his run blocking. I mean, he gives you a little run blocking grit that not a lot of other guys do. Speaking of run blocking grit, Cooper Kupp, man, he gives some grit in the run blocking department. Yes, he does. Is Juju a good player, or was it the team that made him look bad? Jerry, that's a good question. That's a good question. I personally love him, right? I think when you look at his numbers, I wish I could pull it up here. I feel like I'd mess it up if I did. But when I look at Juju Smith-Schuster, I really like a lot of what he does. He's a great PPR weapon. He had a great career with Ben Roethlisberger, but I think what he also showed is that he could be a wide receiver one in the right situation. I mean, he had that kind of stat, that kind of numbers, right? But we never saw him do it as a wide receiver one. So it's kind of like a walking paradox. What does he end up doing? That's why I think Kansas City is a great spot for him because he's not going to ever be the guy that burns you over the top, but he's a great inside the middle guy. He's a great run support kind of receiver. And I think if he goes to a good team, he's absolutely going to be dominant for him. Let's take a look at this. Let's see if this article makes you pay too. All righty. Talking about some of the top guys in the draft here in the Senior Bowl. Yeah, I can say this. Trey McBride, Colorado State. John, you actually asked me earlier who the best tight end in this draft class was. Trey McBride, Colorado State tight end, man. That dude is a freaking madman. He's the Mackey Award winner. Dude, this guy is going to be a dominant player in the NFL. This is that up and coming next dude at the tight end spot here. It's probably going to be like a second round draft pick. 91 catches, 1,100 yards. I mean, this is a dude who did not need to come to the Senior Bowl, and he still came out there just to dominate these kids. I mean, he is a hell of a player. Look at that, 2020, 21, overall PFF grade 94.7. I mean, the dude is a beast. Definitely, you guys need to keep your eyes on this guy for fantasy next season. We all talked about Kyle Pitts, right, as obviously being that kind of guy to be able to come in his rookie year. I'm not saying Trey McBride is Kyle Pitts, but I do think he's going to be a dude that gets good volume and is able to do a lot with the catches he gets. Very similar to like Noah Fant when he came into college too. And Hawkinson was another guy. When he came to college, I mean, it took him a year or two to get really established, but the athleticism and his like actual like ability was shown day one. Let's see who else this article talks about. Yeah, Bernard Rainman, who I talked about in the mock draft, guys. This dude's an absolute freak for Central Michigan. Will definitely fly up the boards in the Senior Bowl. Same with Zion Johnson. I think he's got a really good chance here. Interior guy for Boston College. Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State is a dude that I actually want to really. I mean, I was seeing some tape from him today in the O-line, D-line drills. He looked fantastic. Just a guy that I think is going to have a real chance to submit himself as the high second-round pick. I talked about him at one point kind of being a potential first-round guy. Mel Kiper, a very famous mock drafter, loves this dude from Penn State. And you look at Penn State, the pass rushers they've had over the 4 seasons, a lot of NFL talent, including Michael Parsons. And Arnold Ebiketie has had a better PFF pass rush season than all those guys, right? So a lot of upside there. Devontae Wyatt, Georgia. This is another dude I've been watching in the Senior Bowl. The guy can just like make interior linemen look silly. He's like an edge rusher on the inside, right? A very versatile dude, just like Marvin Leal from Texas A&M. But I think he's a little bit freakier at times. And plus, he's also got that Georgia kind of legacy to him as well. So that's been one guy that's been really popping off to me, and I've been seeing ball out. Roger McCreary, one of my favorite corners in this draft. I could talk about it up and down, but man, I tell you what, it's one of those weird paradoxes where it's like NFL scouts almost care too much about the scouting combine numbers, the measurements, the how fast you run. And Roger McCreary isn't able to just establish the fact that he's tremendous in the technicals and the fundamentals of being an amazing corner, right? Like I think Roger McCreary is going to be in the game for a long time. He's going to be a proven player, 10-year plus type of NFL guy. And whatever team drafts him is going to get an absolute competitor. And the dude has tremendous charisma too. Whenever I see interviews of this guy, it's amazing. He was talking about having gas on an interview today, and I was hype about that. But Roger McCreary, I think if anything, he's actually going to slip more over this Senior Bowl and over the offseason just because of the fact that his numbers are not going to be what you need. I mean, this talks about it right here. Under 190 pounds and under 30-inch arms, that is not attractive at all. So, yeah, that was a little bit of the Senior Bowl recap of just some of the guys that have been getting it done so far in the first 2 days of practice. We're talking more about that throughout the week. Jesse Bates is going to get paid this offseason. Yeah, man, Jesse Bates is a badass for the Bengals. He's a great safety for them. I mean, he's also like been good for a long time. I feel like people in Cincinnati like knew about this dude, but he wasn't known on the big stage, but obviously been like probably his breakout season, but he's been a real part of this defense turning it around. And he's been able to benefit off of a guy like Trey Hendrickson at the edge, pass rushing, and give more ducks up there for him to intercept. Boss man bet, Chiefs gotta get a contested catch guy. I think Chiefs should pick up Michael Gallup if they can. If we could trade Coop for some good value, I would be interested in that route. But I love Coop. Do you really love Coop, boss man bet? I don't like him. I've never liked him. I've never liked Amari Cooper. I get it. His talent is like otherworldly. He's amazing um, as a player, but he's just never there. He just never seems to be there for you. And as a fantasy owner, it's like super frustrating. I guess as a Cowboys, fan, it's like you've still got him on your team, so it's nice, but you could trade him for probably like a third round pick, which would be valuable. Maybe a second, but highly doubted unless you sent it to the right team. Probably not a second round though. But you would clear some cap. And I like Michael Gallup a little bit more than Amari Cooper. But man, dude, Michael Gallup in the Chiefs system, John and I would love that. I didn't realize Russell Gage is going to be a free agent. Yeah, so let me tell you what that leaves the Falcons as. That's without Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and Cordero Patterson. AKA their offense is going to suck next year. I think they'll probably bring back one of those guys, maybe even a Russell Gage, right? I think it makes sense for Russell Gage's career to come back to Atlanta too, because he's established himself there. But yeah, man, Atlanta's going to be a hot mess. This whole NFC South is going to be a hot mess. I mean, I'd be curious to see what you guys think about who the favorite right now in this division is. The favorite of the division of rebuilds. Panthers, Bucks, Saints, Falcons, all these guys are in a rebuild. I'd probably give the edge to the Bucks, but I don't know. Very, very. I think the Panthers are also there. These are all really bad teams next year, more than likely. But with that said, guys, it's been a good one today. Been kind of a little bit shaky, a little bit off my game this week. A little tired, a little sleepy, but it happens, right? It happens. I'm gonna get some food in me. I'm gonna start unwinding the stream, guys. Start getting on the food wave. Start getting on the food wave. Start getting some dinner in me. Hope you guys had some good dinner tonight, by the way, man. We didn't talk too much about food tonight. I'm gonna try to jump on a stream Friday. Just talk about some general shit. Probably a little Senior Bowl. Definitely some NFL. Some fantasy football. Be a little bit more organized on the fantasy side. But Jerry, that's a fun stream to watch. Thank you, my guy. But Jerry, two things. So one, we are going to Friday. We're going to be talking a little bit more movies and TV. So I figured you might be into that. But two, we got no talking about most recent season of Ozark. That's it. That's it. Hush hush on that one. I don't think you're there yet, though. I think John told me you were like on the early seasons. But no spoilers. No spoilers. But I was about to get some spaghetti and it was amazing. Ooh, I love spaghetti. I love spaghetti. But yeah, guys, Friday, jump on for a bit. Probably be like after like 5 p.m. Eastern, probably like close to like 6 to 7-ish. We'll see what's up. Just for a little one. Yeah, hush hush. Good stream, Steve. Thanks, John. Thank you. Tell Lily I said hello. Tell her that creepy Uncle Steve said hey. I actually don't say that. Just say Uncle Steve said hey. But I love you guys. Thank you for coming out tonight, supporting. We stayed on for a bit, actually. We stayed on for close to 2 hours, right? It's a little bit longer than I thought. Okay. Episode 6 of season 1. So we can actually talk a little bit about season 1. Right. I definitely won't spoil that for you, man. I hate spoiling. I hate when people spoil stuff. That's like one of my big pet peeves. I think John told you that, but I do not do any spoilage. Don't spoil the first season, Jerry. Yeah, we won't. I will just say I think you'll like it. I think you'll like Jason Bateman's definitely one of my favorite actors. What I'm also interested in for Friday is just to talk about kind of some hidden low-key movies that maybe a whole lot of people don't know about that we should check out. And then that way we can kind of check it out together and kind of see it and peep it and talk about it. I know Ronald was talking about doing some stuff like that too. So I really want to. I got nothing going on this weekend. So I need some fun shit to get into. I might even do no promises, but I might do something this weekend stream wise. It just depends on what's going on. But I might jump on for a little bit as well. But all right, gang, I am going to sign off. It was a pleasure tonight. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, Jerry. 5 o'clock your time, so I hope you have a great rest of your early evening. And again, it was a pleasure, and you saw it here first at the Kid.